How'd we get so lonely? Turns out, it wasn't the invention of DoorDash. Over the last 60 years, the amount of time Americans spend on social activities got cut in half, down from 13 hours a week in the 60s to just 6 hours a week today. So what happened? And what do we do about it? This week, we're talking about bridging, bonding, and the book Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam here on What is America? Week 13, and I'm in Caldwell, Kansas, population 1,000. And here's a question. Is it weird to feel nostalgia for a place you've never visited before? Because this is true. I was driving into town for the first time, and completely by chance, some old-timey piano jazz came on my Spotify. And the afternoon sun was slanting down through the trees, and I just felt like I'd been here before, like I was driving back in time. I've only been in Caldwell for a week, but I feel like people need to know about this place. Play it again, Sam. I'm John, and this is What is America? It's a podcast in which I drive all over the country and talk to people about their lives. Together, we're figuring out the new story of America, who we are, what we stand for, and what we're building toward as a nation. I'm here in Caldwell for the month of August, and then I'm off to Portland, Oregon. To learn more about our itinerary and stay connected, visit our website, whatisamericapodcast.com. Tell you what, though, I'm going to miss Detroit. For one thing, it's the best Lebanese food I've had in my life. Also, the best music I've encountered so far on the road trip. On one of my last nights in town, we went out for my friend Ebony's birthday. We started the night at the Detroit Athletic Club, where I couldn't help noticing a very distinguished guest, Abraham Lincoln. That's right, the DAC has an original oil portrait of Lincoln, who was happily presiding over our birthday photo shoot. After that, we went for drinks at Easy Peasy and dancing downstairs at Low Key. And can I just say, the house music was crisp and tart like a Granny Smith apple. Happy birthday, Ebony. Okay, let's talk about the book. And you know what? Just for fun, I think I'm going to weave in some clips from the conversations I've been having on the road. Also from the book club meeting we had to discuss Bowling Alone. For me, this whole thing starts with a feeling. The feeling of like, things are different now from when I was growing up. Like, after school or in the summer, our parents would kick my brother and me out of the house and be like, go play. We could walk over to the lake and feed the ducks, or ride our bikes down to the neighbor's house and see what they were doing. The only rule was, don't come home. Figure it out. We played church soccer league, we did Cub Scouts and Wednesday night youth group. These days, it's a different vibe. Like, if I were growing up today, I can't help feeling like there would be less ducks, less Pinewood Derby, more iPhone and iPad. Do you ever feel like we're getting more isolated? Like we just sit at home and look at our phones now? Well, turns out you were onto something. And that's what Bowling Alone is all about. Here's a quick hit from the Netflix documentary based on the book. If you want to check out the whole thing, I've dropped a link in the show notes down below.
Everything that reflects connections with other people are going down. How many times last year did you go to church? Down. How many times did you go to a dinner party? Down. How many times last year did you go to a club meeting? In barely a couple of decades, half all the civic infrastructure in America had simply vanished. It's equivalent to saying half of all the roads in America just disappeared.
When I heard about Bowling Alone, I was immediately struck by the name. In the 60s, bowling leagues were all the rage. Everybody was part of one. It was basically just an excuse to be social, to meet people and spend time with your friends. But today, although the popularity of bowling has increased, the majority of lanes in America are rented by a single person, bowling alone. Sad, right? It all points back to the central concept of Putnam's book, which is this idea of social capital. It's the network of relationships among people who live and work in a society, relationships that enable the society to function. Maybe a simpler way to say it is just anytime you do something with other people, something that builds relationships of trust, you're building social capital. Like when Jim goes hunting with his buddies.
I've had some very good hunts recently. I've had some kind of social events, we'll call it that, because nothing was harmed in the making of some of those hunts. A lot of my friends can come down and we'll spend time afield, maintaining traditions, I guess.
Importantly, there are two kinds of social capital, bonding and bridging. When Jim and his buddies go hunting, that's an example of bonding, when you build social capital with other people who are like you. Bonding is important because it helps people within a group support each other and advocate for their interests. Other examples of bonding include churches, country clubs, professional associations, and employee resource groups. But the other kind of social capital, bridging, is just as important, maybe even more so. When we met for book club, PK gave a great example of bridging social capital.
I started volunteering at the local hospital, and I would go to whatever local events that were happening, getting involved in the community and things like that. Initially, it was okay, I want to get to 40 hours or whatever it was, but then I just ended up enjoying it, that I would just continue doing it because it was just fun. And I don't know, I personally just enjoyed the positive feelings that would come from service, right?
Bridging social capital is when you build relationships with people in a different group, people who aren't like you. So when PK volunteered at the hospital, he got to know people from all walks of life and kind of understand where they were coming from. Other examples of bridging would be things like the Boy Scouts, the PTA, or a volunteer fire department. The reason bridging is so important for our democracy is that it helps different groups understand each other and work together toward common goals. What's kind of horrifying is that over the last 60 years, social capital has plummeted in the United States. Back in the 60s, Americans spent an average of 13 hours per week being social, doing things like club meetings, dinner parties, sports leagues, campaigning, volunteering. Today, it's half that, just 6 hours per week, and it's down across the board, across all age groups, races and religions, education levels, and tax brackets. You can definitely feel it. During our conversation, Owen talked about how things have changed on his block.
When I was growing up, people were always kind.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of different. You knew everybody on the street by name. If you needed a cup of sugar, you could go to the neighbors and get a cup of sugar.
Uh-huh.
And it was just everybody helped everybody out.
You said that it's different now.
I don't know anybody hardly that lives on my block. I've been there since 91.
Just saying, that may be the saddest thing anybody said on the podcast so far. Anyway, what happened? Well, it's tough to pin down. America is many things, but it is categorically not a controlled experiment. And anyway, how would you test for that? But the author does have some interesting theories and some pretty compelling data to back them up. Here's a chart he came up with to explain what happened. Putnam says about 10% of the change can be chalked up to longer commutes, and 10% is due to women joining the workforce. TV and the internet claim another 25% of the decrease in social capital. I thought about that when Mari was talking about how the onslaught of information can feel so overwhelming.
I think that the constant stream of information is something that is very beneficial in so many ways. And I have to be careful because I can get sucked up into it, and I can really, go down rabbit holes, and I think we're addicted to our phones, and I
don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah. And it takes away from the living experience, I think, too. So it makes me kind of sad in some ways, but I also see the benefit of it.
Okay, longer commutes, women joining the workforce, TV and the internet. If you're going by Putnam's pie chart, together they account for about 50% of the decrease in social capital since the 60s. So what about the rest? According to the author, it's a generational change. For whatever reason, young people are consistently less engaged, less socially connected than their parents. For example, Gen Z spends 50% less time socializing than their grandparents did, and they're 30% less likely to vote. Personally, I actually think screens are an even bigger culprit than Putnam makes them out to be. Remember, he wrote this book in 1998. And when you look at how much less time people are spending on social activities, it basically all went to screens. The two numbers are the same. Deanna joined us for the book club discussion. She's definitely spotted this trend with her little brother. He grew up with screens, whereas she didn't.
Again, to provide an example of my younger brother, who's 15 for the record, he spends his time on the phone doing stuff that I'm not proud of, like wasting his life. He can ignore me for a week, and I don't know if he thinks I'm lame or he's just like that. But jokes aside, yes, when they're getting a phone call or a message, they think about it like, oh, not again, like something else that wants my attention, energy, distracts me. And it's just like this feeling of being always on the brink because they are consuming so much.
But okay, why do we care? Americans are less socially connected today. So what? The deal is, social capital is good for society. Communities that have more of it have lower crime rates, less corruption, better health outcomes, smaller wealth gaps, and better schools. There are tons of mind-blowing statistics in this book, but this is maybe my favorite. If you join one group that meets monthly, your odds of dying over the next year are cut in half. That's real. But the opposite is also true. Societies with less social capital have higher crime rates, more corruption, worse health outcomes, bigger wealth gaps, and lower performing schools. In case you're wondering, that's the country we're living in today. When he came back to civilian life after 35 years behind bars, Joel was amazed by what he saw. Americans were interacting with each other, treating each other the same way people in prison did.
What's bothered me most is like people's alienated. Like you can walk past somebody and they won't speak, they won't acknowledge, they just keep their face focused, head down, and keep moving. And that's kind of strange because that's what I dealt with while in prison. And I thought that the world, society would be different than that. I thought people would be more concerned for their fellow man. You know what I mean? Like, but no.
Not gonna lie, this is all kind of chilling. But according to the author, maybe the biggest danger that comes from the collapse of social capital is that it makes democracies unstable and supports the rise of extremism. It reminds me of that stat, which we've talked about in a previous episode. Today, 10% of women and 15% of men in America don't have any close friends at all. Not a single one. Think about it. You've got people alone in their homes. They don't belong to any groups. They don't have any close friends. Americans spend on average 7 hours per day looking at our screens. In many cases, we're being served up outrageous and polarizing content by cable news and social media. So were you surprised that we can barely talk to each other anymore?
We have a hard time talking about nuance and duality, and that more than one thing is true for all of us. And because of that, because we tend to roam to the extremes, it usually turns into just something that's unproductive where people can't hear you. They can't, not only can they not hear you, they don't see you. And when I stop hearing and seeing you, I stop like respecting your humanity.
Okay. Deep breaths. What do we do? Actually, this is my one real criticism of Bob Putnam's book, which is that he's a little, shall we say, light on recommendations. He basically says that today is a lot like the Gilded Age, the historical period leading up to the First World War. And the Gilded Age led to a period of civic renewal. Americans came together from all walks of life and created transformative social movements like the Boy Scouts and playgrounds and the Red Cross. So now I guess all we have to do is wait, and then something's going to happen. We'll all come together for a period of social renewal. That's basically what Bob Putnam implies. So this next part, I'm going to kind of go off script. This is not from the book. This is just me, John, talking to you. If we want to rebuild social capital in America, I think there are two things we can do right away that will make a big difference. The first one is easy. Turn off your screens, including right now. If you were waiting for a sign, this is it. Seriously, almost anything you do besides staring at your phone or the TV will be better for you, and it will also be better for America. Take it away, Owen.
I think that the kids need to get away from the phone and the gaming systems and get out and get some fresh air and exercise.
You heard it here first, kids. Dad says touch a grass. Thing two, which is not hard exactly, but it's not as easy as turning off your phone, is join a group. Find a group that meets regularly in person and start going, especially a group with people in it who are different from you. You could join a choir, like I did. You could volunteer to pick up trash in your neighborhood on Saturdays. Or heck, take a page out of Bob Putnam's book and join a bowling league. As previously mentioned, your chances of dying over the next year will be cut in half, and our democracy will get a little boost. I loved hearing this story from Sharon during our book club discussion. She moved to California in her 70s and joined a volunteer board of directors as a way to get plugged into the community.
When I moved to California, I didn't know anybody. And so I knew that I had to get connected to the community. And by looking at the local newspaper, I saw an ad for Friends of the Library needed a board member. So I thought, well, I know something about libraries. I applied, it was accepted, and there was my community initially. And then through that, I met other people and I got involved in another board and then another board. And so I have these various communities, but you do have to put yourself out there.
I want to wrap up our discussion of bowling alone with a story from my own life and a question for you. Last year, I joined a group, the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. And it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. For those who aren't already super fans, SFGMC is a choir that rehearses and sings year-round, not just in the Bay Area, but around the country. In concert halls and schools and old folks' homes, through our music, we're spreading a message. No matter who you are, you're great. You belong. It was cool to see what an impression we made on our audiences, but what I wasn't expecting was how much it impacted me. Like, all of a sudden, I was part of a community. I had weekend plans. I had people who would call if I didn't show up to rehearsal. I'd had friends before, but I don't think I'd ever been part of a community. And it totally changed my life. Here's Pablo talking about a recent SFGMC performance during our book club discussion.
This last concert that we just had was a big focus on supporting our trans and non-binary singers. So we're showing our love and support to everybody within that community and showing the world that we are here to give that to you, and you are welcome with open arms.
As I was reading Bowling Alone, I kept thinking about the Gay Men's Chorus. I was like, how do we help more people experience this? Not like specifically the Gay Men's Chorus, but like the power of being in community, the power of being part of a group. So that's my question for you, person watching this video. Have you ever been part of a group that changed your life? What was that experience? And thinking a bit more broadly, how do we scale that up? How do we invite more Americans into community? How do we show them how great it is? If you've got a story, I want to hear it. Feel free to email me, or you can even send me a short cell phone video. I'm whatisamericapodcast@gmail.com. To close out our discussion of Bowling Alone, here is a short clip from the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. Check us out. We're at SFGMC on YouTube. This song is a mashup of True Colors by Cyndi Lauper and Brave by Sarah Bareilles. At this point, you're probably thinking, wow, book club, I gotta get in there. Well, good news. We've got another one coming up on Thursday, September 18th. The book we're reading is Blue Highways by William Least Heatmoon. I'll be honest, the last few books have kind of been downers, and I wanted something fun and different. And that's what this is. Back in 1978, the author took a 3-month road trip around the US, sleeping in the back of his emerald green Ford Econoline van. He stuck to back roads and tiny towns, and Blue Highways is his travelogue about the experience. To wet your whistle, here's an excerpt from the book read by Icelandic actor Ólafur Darri Ólafsson. I've linked the full video down in the show notes below.
As a kid, I was searching beyond myself, dreaming of something to bring harmony and make sense of things. Whatever my understanding of that something was, suitcase, a highway. To find adventure and arrive at a place of clarity.
Pretty great, right? Grab your copy of Blue Highways and mark your calendar for Thursday, September 18th. Okay, story time. Since his episode aired, many of you have asked me about Joel, the guy in Florida who was imprisoned at age 13 and spent the next 35 years behind bars. So I caught up with him on my drive from Detroit to Caldwell. Sadly, I haven't figured out how to record phone calls yet, but he shared some photos and said I could give y'all an update. Shortly after our conversation, Joel got his first job since being released. He was cooking on the line at Sonic, which is a big deal because many companies won't even consider somebody who's been in prison. Which, okay, shout out to Sonic. You wouldn't normally be on my list of restaurants to try, but now I'm totally going to stop in and have some fries. Sadly, Joel only had that job for a few days, and then he had a health scare. He's got a pacemaker, and there was this thing going on with his heart where his legs got very swollen. He had intense headaches and joint pain. He had to go to the ER and spend a few days in the hospital. Sadly, Sonic hired somebody else while he was out. So he's back on the job market. And hey, if you know about a good job in Gainesville, please drop me a line. I'm whatisamericapodcast@gmail.com. Joel has been applying and interviewing like crazy, focusing on companies that are known to hire people with criminal records. He's also got new housing. He's living in a group home with 3 roommates. He says it's a lot better than his first place. Okay, real talk. Coming back to society after 35 years is no joke. In many cases, all they give you is your personal items back and $50 to $100 of gate money. But one thing I love about Joel is his unbreakable attitude. He's hit some speed bumps, but he just won't quit. During our call, I asked him about his plans for the future. His answer? Greatness, which is classic Joel. It reminded me of what he said during our interview.
Wherever God leads me, whatever he puts on my plate, I just want to be great at it, man. You know, I'm very compassionate about people. I'm very compassionate about helping people. Man, I just want to be great. I just want to be what the world needs to move forward.
Before we get out of here, I want to say thank you to somebody who's helped me out along the way. And this week, that somebody is Toby Messler. If you've seen the short videos we've been posting on TikTok and Instagram, then you've seen Toby's work. But he's not just a video editor. He's a friend and a thought partner, somebody who helps me figure out how to understand what I'm seeing and hearing on the road. Thanks for always listening to me kvetch about my Airbnbs, Toby, and for all the rest besides. If you want to stay connected and come along for the journey, the best thing you can do is subscribe to our newsletter. It's basically my shower thoughts, as well as links to the latest podcast episode. Just go to whatisamericapodcast.com and enter your email. If you're trying to follow me on social, I'm at What is America Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. No, really. Our video with Mari Walker, the one where she's riffing on Bewitched, got more than 3,000 views. Finally, if you've maxed out your data plan and can't watch the video, you can find the audio edition of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Say It With Me, wherever you get your podcasts. Next week is another week, and be still my beating heart, because I think I may finally have met the American dream. His name is Alberto Paramo, and he's the son of illegal immigrants from Mexico. He's also a serial entrepreneur. Today, he's the CEO of 3 companies in Scranton, and he started a foundation to help young men and women build a career in the trades. Until then, I'll leave you with the Gandhi quote that launched this whole crazy adventure. The act may seem small, but it's important that you do it. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll see you soon.